What's up? And thank you for tuning in to the Skol State of Mind podcast. It's much appreciated. But within this video, we're going to talk about the game day preview with the Minnesota Vikings versus the Baltimore Ravens. But before we dive into that game day preview and I give you guys my insights, I got two topics I want to get off my chest real quick. So let's get into it. Now, the trade deadline has come and went, and our Minnesota Vikings decided not to acquire anybody within that time frame. Now, initially, I was a little bit bummed about it because if you've been following this channel, you would know that I've been giving my concerns about the Minnesota Vikings cornerback room, and I felt it was in the Vikings' best interest to bring in a viable cornerback to help, this defense going forward. Now, I'm not talking about a cornerback on a Sauce Gardner deal to where you have to give up multiple first round picks. Basically somebody you can probably package a fifth, a fourth, something like that, because I really feel like the Vikings are lacking a third cornerback on this roster. I mean, basically, they only have two playable cornerbacks. They only got Byron Murphy and Isaiah Rodgers because we don't know what we're going to get with Jeff Okudah because he's basically, suffering from concussion issues. And the other two guys, in my opinion, aren't consistent enough to actually play in the NFL. They're basically special teams guys. So bringing in a third corner was imperative to me. Like I'm really big on that. And I'm gonna just back it up because I'm getting to the point to where I have to like not just make opinions. I gotta start showing my work. And this is my thinking on the cornerback situation. We're only being able to play Byron Murphy and Isaiah Rodgers, and you don't have a third corner that can basically play the slot or play the outside, whatever, right? That means you're forced to consistently put Josh Metellus in a nickel position. Now, you guys know I have my gripes about Josh Metellus, but I do understand that Josh Metellus is at his best when he's able to play that rover role and to be all over the defense. And you have to think about it from the aspect of if you put Josh Metellus consistently at the nickel, that means you got to bring somebody else in, at safety. And in my opinion, I don't necessarily like what I'm seeing from Jay Ward or Theo Jackson consistently. And I know Harrison Smith is kind of long in the tooth and, his snaps are down, but I would prefer if we can put Josh Metellus back there with Harrison Smith so we can actually see consistently what he can do at safety. And depending on, what the offense is doing and depending on Brian Flores' scheme at the time versus, whatever kind of personnel the offense has, we can see Josh Metellus in that rover type role a whole lot more and not him, playing the nickel because I think offenses are looking at that and they're like, yo, we can light that up. We know he can't play, he can't play corner. So we're going to expose that. So bringing in another corner, can help down the line. And that's just my thing with it, but maybe the Vikings didn't want to, go out there and, package some draft picks for guys that they know was only going to be a 9-game rental going forward. And I can kind of get that. I can sit tight with that. I understand that. So it is what it is. But since cornerback is an issue on this team, well, let's talk about Asante Samuel Jr. because the Vikings finally decided to bring in Asante Samuel Jr. for a visit. And it seems like he's going to be real busy. I mean, I've seen a report to where he about to visit the Packers, the Vikings, and a couple of other teams because, hey, he's available. And in my opinion, he's probably the top free agent right now, especially going into week 10, which is kind of wild. But y'all know the issue with Asante Samuel Jr. He has a horrible, injury history, and the injury that he sustained last season, excuse me, the injury he sustained last season kind of, lingered until this off season, and he was just recently medically cleared to play football in the NFL. And I think that's the reason why teams are, bringing him in for visits right now because you don't want to bring in a cornerback to basically to where, you're going to sign him for multiple seasons and you don't know if he's going to ever play for your team again. So I don't know what the Vikings are going to offer. I don't know what these other teams are going to offer. But for my Minnesota Vikings, I feel that they should go out there, get a deal done, figure something out, put a deal together to where he has a hell of a lot of incentives, to actually play. Because even if he signed, within this week, we probably won't see him to like another 2 weeks because he got to get his NFL legs in. So hopefully the Vikings can figure something out and sign Asante Samuel for the rest of the season. I'm looking forward to it. But let's keep it moving. All right. So let's dive into this game day preview. Now, the Minnesota Vikings are coming into this game being 4-4, and the Baltimore Ravens are 3-5. Now, I know we still in the regular season, but this game is going to be like a playoff game for both teams because neither team wants to get another loss because the Vikings are currently sitting last in the division right now in the NFC North, and I think the Baltimore Ravens are like third because shit, we know the Cleveland Browns, they ain't going nowhere. But this is the game neither team wants to lose. It's a big game right now. So with Lamar Jackson, coming back from injury, I think this would be basically his second week back, and the Vikings got to find a way to slow him down. And but then the Vikings got to find a way for their offense to consistently go down the field because this defense that the Baltimore Ravens has is not that great. So we got the other topics we're gonna get into, but first off, let's get into this injury report. Excuse me, y'all. So here is the Minnesota Vikings injury report. All right, as for Wednesday, you got Christian Darrisaw is a full participant, which is great, and I'm gonna tell y'all right now full participant for Christian Darrisaw, we have to take it with a grain of salt because by Friday, he might have a DNP to basically where he's getting some kind of rest. So I just want to put that out there. Now, Will Fries with the calf limited, that's cool. CJ Ham limited. Theo Jackson concussion. There we go again. With the defensive backs, Theo Jackson concussion might not be available on Sunday. Now, Aaron Jones has a shoulder injury and a toe. Now, he's going to be playing with I think he has like, I'm not sure if it's a labrum, but it's something with his shoulder socket or whatever, something similar to what, Dalvin Cook had to deal with. So it's not as bad as the injury, to Carson Wentz, but they're going to lock it up and see if he can go DNP. Jocelyn Tellis was limited. Excuse me. Jeff Okuda, concussion, DNP. There goes some more corners, getting light. And then Josh Oliver, foot, DNP. Jalen Redmond, limited for shin. And Harrison Smith, non-injury related rest. That's basically old man, get some time rest, hang out with your family. See you on Thursday. That's basically all that is. So that's the Vikings injury report. I mean, as of looking at it right now for Wednesday, I mean, things could change Thursday and Friday and, some game time decisions. And there's really not much I can talk about the Baltimore Ravens injury report because they released theirs and wasn't nobody on it. So let's get into something else right now. All right. Let's move it around. Let's get into something else right now. So here's my offensive game plan for going into the game against the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the Ravens just traded for another safety. Now, they traded for another safety because now they can actually put um, Kyle Hamilton in different spots where he can basically play the rover role, Troy Polamalu role for the Ravens, which is cool, but their defense is still not that great. Now, this will be JJ McCarthy's second consecutive game that he's going to be playing since coming back from injury. Now, McCarthy had a great game, in my opinion, but there were some throws that I know he wished he wanted to have back. Now, all I'm asking from JJ McCarthy is to get better, with your throws from what you did last Sunday to this Sunday. Basically, make some kind of progression. Now, I always say this every time we get into the, offensive game plan. Vikings have to find a way to consistently run the ball. I mean, that's just football. Run the ball, win, in the trenches. But I didn't. Jordan Mason didn't really get going last game. And I feel like with Aaron Rodgers, not Aaron Rodgers, with Aaron Jones, sorry, with Aaron Jones nursing, toe injury and a shoulder injury, the Vikings got to find a way to get Aaron Jones. Vikings have to find a way, excuse me. The Vikings have to find a way to get Jordan Mason going early. For real. I mean, I think they're going to be able to win on the outside with their receivers, but running the ball and staying consistent with that is of the utmost importance. All right. Control the line of scrimmage, control the clock. That's what they're going to have to do. Kevin O'Connell drew up a great game plan last week against the Detroit Lions for JJ McCarthy. We have to continue that. We have to get consistency from this offense. All right. Now, when we talk about this offense, we have to talk about the offensive line. Offensive line will have the same starters as last week. So that offensive line is starting to be consistent. They're starting to gel together. They're starting to trust each other. They're getting, basically, acclimated to playing with each other. That's great. So the Vikings have to figure some things out on offense, get that running game going, make it easy for JJ McCarthy, and win down the field when you can. All right. So let's talk about the defensive side of the ball. All right. Now, on this channel, y'all know how I roll. If I'm wrong, I'm going to admit it. If I'm right, I might rub it in your face. But Brian Flores' defense last week played a heck of a game. I don't want to go out on a limb and say that it was all Andrew Van Ginkel. I'm not going to say that as of yet, but he returned, and it seemed like this defense was completely different. But we have to mention that the Vikings did get better push from the interior with Hargrave and Allen, and that's something that wasn't getting consistently, the past couple of games. I don't know what happened. Did somebody have to talk to him? I really don't care. But Brian Flores has to figure something out to keep Lamar Jackson in front of him. Now, last game, we didn't see Dallas Turner a lot. It's not a big deal with me. Some of y'all out there kind of get, upset because Dallas Turner didn't play enough and he didn't make no splash plays. And I'm going to keep asking you this, just like I've been asking you since last year. Who are you going to take off the field to put Dallas Turner on? Y'all answer that question in the chat. Now, sorry, my mouth just getting dry. Now, peep this, though, right? Dallas Turner is one of the most athletic players on this defense. And I feel Dallas Turner might be the one that's going to consistently spy Lamar Jackson. All right. They're going to have to do that because Lamar Jackson is a dual threat. He can beat you with his legs and he can beat you with his arm. So Brian Flores has to figure something out to limit that. But the thing about this is the Vikings have to play complementary football. If the Vikings can go out there and score points on offense and keep the ball away from this, Baltimore Ravens offense with Derrick Henry and Zay Flowers and, all these other guys and, Mark Andrews, then they can pretty much force that Baltimore Raven offense pressing where they won't be able to run the ball as much, but they're going to try to go down the field and try to play catch up. Now, that's what they got to do. Complementary football, especially games like this. This is a perennial playoff team. This is a team that's always in the playoffs, always talked about to be one of the teams to win the Super Bowl. So you have to take advantage and you can't play games and you can't have any turnovers. So complementary football for real. So let's keep it moving. Players to watch. All right. Now, a player that I would say I want to watch on defense, Dallas Turner. I just gave you all the examples why. On offense, a player that I, would say y'all should watch for, I would say TJ Hawkinson, because coming into this game, TJ Hawkinson hasn't done much in the receiving. And I think this is the second game that he's able to go out there and run routes and not have to chip as much. I mean, you saw last week he scored a touchdown. I mean, there was another play where he was basically wide open. He dropped it. He can't do that. But I think this will be a TJ Hawkinson type game to where he can kind of take advantage of the middle of the field, to where the Ravens might, put all their effort and energy to stopping Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Then we got to throw in Jay Naylor too. They might be able to try to stop the receivers I think Hawkinson should be able to, sneak coverage and, get open through the middle and get some yards after the catch. That's a player to watch for me, man. But, excuse me. Sorry, I just got some stuff stuck in my throat. Sorry, keep doing that. But let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. All right. So now here is going to be my closing thoughts. All right. My closing thoughts is this: the Minnesota Vikings are coming into this game being 4-4. Take care of business. Take care of business, and don't worry about what the other teams in your division are doing. If you take care of your games, everything else will work itself out. 4-4, you turn that into 5-4. That looks way better than 4-5. Now, I understand McCarthy is still a young developing quarterback, and I'm always willing to accept that he is going to make mistakes throughout these games, but don't let the mistakes hinder the outcome so much. So stay focused, business like, take care of business, keep it going. Don't worry about what these other teams are doing. Just go out there and win the football game. So, with that being said, I'm gonna close it out with my final score prediction. So, let's get into it. Look, so here is the score prediction. All right. I got the Baltimore Ravens 21 versus the Minnesota Vikings 27. I think the Vikings will do enough on offense to win this game. And I think this Minnesota Vikings defense will do enough to basically keep Lamar Jackson in front of them and basically win this game. Now, this is just a prediction. This ain't no betting numbers. This is just how I feel going into this game. So that's all I got, man. So I'm gonna bring this back up right here. But yeah, that's what I got for y'all, man. Thank y'all for tuning in. And I do have to say this and give you guys this before I get up out of here. I'm trying something new on Sunday. I will be doing a watch party, for the game for the first 2 quarters, just to see how it goes, just to get my feet wet with doing my own, watch party, because I feel like it's best that I'm starting to give you guys more content and different kind of content going forward. That just gives me the option to doing the first 2 quarters and then, chilling with the family, watching the last two, third and fourth. So that's all I got for y'all, man. And it's much appreciated. Thank you guys out there for continuing to be in the comments, giving me, feedback on these videos is much appreciated. To everybody out there that's basically, following me on all, social media platforms is much appreciated. And just like I told y'all early in the season, I'm trying my best to be way more consistent than I ever been. And I'm getting to the point to where I feel like this thing is going where it needs to be going. And I'm starting to have a lot of fun with it. So with that being said, I'm gonna get up out of here. Skol.